Hello friends, this video on Morphology of Flowering Plants Part 21 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Okay, so we will spend some time in understanding stamen and carpel, but before that, so let us now look at the different parts of a flower. So now I have already given you an idea about the different sections or different part of the flower. So broadly, in order to categorize all these different parts of a flower is divided into four whorls which are arranged successively. What do I mean by whorls? Whorls means one circle of a particular thing. So it is considered that every flower has all the parts arranged in a concentric fashion. That means it is somewhat like this: one whorl, two whorl, three whorl and four whorl, and that completes the flower. So what are these four whorls? They are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. So I am sure that the picture itself would have explained what I wanted to explain. So we will again go back through the same picture. So let us first talk about calyx. So what is calyx? Calyx are nothing but the sepals. So the sepals are given that the whorl, and sepals are each of these leaf-like structure, and the entire whorl of sepals is given the name of calyx. So this calyx is the outermost whorl. The next whorl is corolla, that is the petal. So corolla is the name given to the whorl of petals, and petals is the term for each of these colored structures. The third whorl is androecium, which consists of the stamens. So all the stamens together, the whorl of stamens is given the name of androecium, and the innermost whorl is the carpel, that is the gynoecium. Right? So when I talk about calyx, I am actually talking about the sepals. When I talk about corolla, I am talking about the petals. When I talk about androecium, I am talking about the stamen. When I talk of gynoecium, I am talking about the carpel. Right? Now many a times people get confused with the names calyx and corolla because both starts with C, so they get confused. So you can remember the small memory tip: cas. Cas means calyx represent sepals. So cas. And similarly you can remember cope, that is corolla represent petals. So cas and cope, you can remember these terminologies just to remember what is calyx and what is corolla, because I have seen that many students get confused whether calyx is for sepals or calyx is for petals. Right? So now these are the four whorls of which a flower is made up of. Now do you understand? Now are you able to understand or visualize the concept of whorls? Now if you look at a flower, just take a flower in your hand and look at the sepals, that is the calyx, that is the outermost whorl. You will actually see that the calyx or the sepals are the outermost thing. Inside that calyx are the layer of the petals, and inside that petal you will see the layer of the stamens, that is the thin structures, and inside that at the center you will have the carpel. So that is why it is said that a flower is composed of four whorls. Right? Okay. So now we will discuss about each of these whorls in little more detail. So we will start with calyx. So calyx is the outermost whorl, as I already mentioned. Members of calyx are termed as sepals, and that is where I gave you the memory tip as cas, that is calyx for sepals. Green color, they are green in color obviously. They protect the bud which later becomes a flower. This also I mentioned before. So basically the function of calyx is more important only when the flower is not yet formed, when it is in the form of bud. Types. Now depending upon the type of sepals or depending upon the way sepals are present in a flower, there are two types of flowers: gamosepalous and polysepalous. So these are the two types of flower. A flower can be a gamosepalous or a flower can be a polysepalous. Now gamosepalous is derived of two terms, gamo and sepalous. Sepalous obviously means sepals. And what does gamo means? It means united sepals. So gamosepalous are those flowers which have sepals which are united. So example of a gamosepalous flower would be hibiscus. So this hibiscus is an example. So here you can see these are the sepals, right? So all the sepals are united to each other. They stick to each other. They are not like separate leaves. But when I talk about polypetalous, poly anyways means multiple. So polysepalous would actually mean free sepals. An example is rose. So in rose, if you look at the sepals, see they are all separate. They are not connected to each other, right? You can see them each as an individual leaf-like structure. So that is known as polysepalous. Whereas in hibiscus, all of them are connected. So that is gamosepalous. So generally calyx are short-lived, that is the sepals are short-lived. They fall off as the bud opens. As I said before also, they play the most important role only when the flower is not yet formed, when it is in the form of bud. Now when the bud gets converted into a flower, calyx do not really have a major role to play. So most of the time they actually fall off. So their longevity is also not very high. They do not live for a very long time. So this is about calyx. So let us look at the next word, that is corolla. So corolla is the word before calyx. That means if you start looking it from the outermost, it is next to the outermost. So it lies inner to the calyx. Members are termed as petals, that is the colored petals. They are bright colored. They come in a variety of colors in different types of flowers. In some they are red, they can be red, pink, yellow. Actually there are a huge variety. They attract insects for pollination. So that is the most important function of petals. That is, their beautiful colors attract insects, and when insects come to them, they act as pollinating agents and help in the process of pollination. Now here I am not going to discuss again in detail about pollination. If you want to learn about it, or if you are not aware of what is pollination, please refer videos of reproduction in plants. Okay. Again, here also depending upon the way how the petals are organized in a flower, flowers can be of two types, that is gamopetalous and polypetalous. So it is exactly as how we talked about gamosepalous and polysepalous. So here also gamopetalous would mean united petals. An example would be tulip. So here you can see tulip. So these are gamopetalous, because if you see these are the petals, right? These are each petal, but all the petals are united together. So you actually can't differentiate each petal separately. The entire flower is like joined, all the petals are joined together. Whereas in case of polypetalous, they have free individual petals, and an example would be rose. In case of rose, you can actually distinguish each petal from one another, right? In a rose, you can actually take out each petal. So they are all independent of each other. They are all free petals. So that is about, so example of gamosepalous is tulip. So let us talk about the third world, that is Androecium. So let us see how does an Androecium look like. So it is the inner world next to corolla, as I said. So outermost is calyx, then corolla, and then inner to that is Androecium. So where do we see Androecium? Here, these are the Androecium. These together form the third world. Members are termed as stamens. So each of these structures are known as stamen. This is the male reproductive organ, as I mentioned before also. Now, if we look at the structure of each stamen in detail, it would look something like this. So the first picture represents a stamen from the back side. This picture, the second one, represents the face of the stamen, and this represents the cross section of the stamen. So basically what it consists of, if you look at the structure of a stamen, it has a filament, which is a stalk-like structure. This filament is the same as this green colored filament, and it has a swollen upper portion, which is known as anther. Now, if you look at from the back side, if you look at it, you actually see that inside the anther, you actually have these pollen sacs, somewhere like this. So here, if you look at the cross section, you actually see some sac-like structure, some container type of structure. So there are four pollen sacs present here, and inside these pollen sacs are present the pollen grains, and pollen grains are nothing but the male gametes or the male sex cells. So this is how the structure of a stamen looks like. So here, if you look at this picture, this is the filament, this is the anther, and inside the anther is basically bilobed. That is, there are two lobes. You can see here two lobes. If you look at the cross section, you actually see sac-like structure, which are called pollen sacs. Inside the pollen sacs, you have the male sex cells or male gametes called pollen grains. Okay, fine. So let us now talk about the fourth whorl, that is gynoecium. So this is going to be the innermost whorl. So this you can see as the innermost and the central whorl of the flower. The members are termed as carpel. So if you look at the structure of a carpel in detail, this is how it looks like. There is a swollen base, and this swollen base is the ovary. Then there is a tube-like structure like this, which is known as style, and then the upper portion of the style is again little swollen when compared to the tube, and this upper portion is called stigma. So stigma, style, ovary are the three important parts of a carpel. So this is how a carpel looks like. Fine, so now we saw the four different whorls which make up a flower. But now we will spend some more time in understanding in detail the structure of a stamen and a carpel, because these are the two most important organs when we talk of reproduction. Because when we talk about reproduction, the most important things are the male and the female gametes. And these male and female gametes are present inside the stamen and the carpel respectively. So we need to very clearly understand these two structures. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.